Hello, my name is April and welcome to the Yoga Ranger Studio and welcome to this myofascial release practice for your hands in particular. So if you don't have a therapy ball or a myofascial release ball, these are about the same size as a tennis ball and they have sort of a grippy texture, which makes it a little bit easier to hang on to and to control. You can always use a tennis ball, preferably one that's newer. I tend to keep them away from my dog because after a while they're no longer new, but a tennis ball will work just as well. Or if you're looking to get in a little bit deeper into some tinier spaces around your hands, a golf ball might be a good choice for you. You have a stray golf ball around your house, you might be able to use that just as well. So I'm going to use the myofascial release ball. So we're going to start with our fingers interlaced and we're going to have the ball in the palms of our hands and we're just going to shift our fingers side to side so we get like a little rolling action in our palms. Our hands do so much for us every day, picking things up, putting things down, typing, cooking, cleaning, writing, all sorts of things. And using a little bit of pressure here to kind of rub into the center of your hand. And maybe you start to take your fingers apart and use one hand to control the roll on your palm, going clockwise to start with. And you can put your hand down on a surface if that's easier than holding it up. And just really pressing into it. Maybe going crossways across the palm from the edge all the way into the inner space between the thumb. Switching sides. Here again, it could be on the floor or a table or a block or your lap. Little circles every now and then big sweeps across from the outer edge all the way up into that space right around the thumb. I know for me, my thumb often gets really sore, so. And then coming up. And we're going to take that thumb space and really work on the outside edge. So roll it up over the edge and we have that space on the back side of our hands, a little divot where the thumb comes together to the hand, and making little circles and going back and forth. Here again, you can rest it on a surface if that feels better for you. We have some tendons that run right into the thumb, right around this space, and it sometimes feels good to roll those out. Coming up a little bit further toward the wrist. Switching hands, rolling up, and then scrubbing in little circles maybe. A lot of myofascial release is really kind of getting into those spaces and places and giving yourself a little self-care. And noticing where you feel stuff and kind of hanging out there maybe a little bit longer. Maybe you find a kind of spot that feels a little bit uncomfortable or tender. Focusing on that spot for 30 to 60 seconds. When I find one, I tend to do a little bit of circling. And then coming to the inside of the hand and maybe running across the palm right below the finger. So right at the space, right at the base of the fingers. Maybe little circles at the pinky and the next finger and middle finger and first finger, just running up and down that space. Changing sides, circles. It often feels really good to sort of spread your fingers and get a little bit into that space in between each one of those little joints there. And then running from your fingers all the way back up to your wrist, maybe a little bit of wrist attention here. So flipping your hand over, letting your palm face out and your hand kind of reaching down relaxed. Little circles on your wrist, at the base of your hand. Switching sides, finding the other one the same way. Especially if you have very tired hands from a lot of work or typing or using them a lot. If you're someone who uses your fingers in much detail work, become very sore and tight and tense. The base of the thumb, we're going to take that base of the thumb a little bit more, pressing the hand down on a surface and just taking it right at the kind of what I call the meat of the thumb. Maybe at the outside edge of the thumb a little bit. And then switching other side. You might find that one side is more tender than the other. That may come from how much you use one hand or your dominant hand. And then we often forget about the outer edge of the hand. So we focus a lot on the inside of the hand, but what about the outer edge on this side? So it feels good to either just do it up in the air, or if you feel like it, you can take it down to a surface like a table or a surface where you can kind of focus that energy and just rubbing up and down the hand, starting at the wrist. Then going up and down the outer edge, what we call the outer spine of the hand. Maybe some little circles. Maybe turning the hand a little bit to face in and rubbing at that space right on the outside of the wrist. Another tender spot where a lot of things connect. Switching sides, here again the other side. You can always do this just holding the ball, or you can do it on a table. It's a great thing to do while you're at your desk, while you're typing with one hand or doing something else, reading an email or two. You can always rub your hands out. Little circles, getting all the way out to the outer edge of the pinky finger, an oft forgotten and ignored finger. Maybe turning the palm a little bit face up, getting into that space right at the base of the wrist. Finding those spaces and just kind of scrubbing either back and forth, inside out, or away from you and in. Little scrubbing actions go opposite to the natural flow of where everything's going, or with that flow. Circles just kind of get in a bigger space or a bigger area. Here again, you can take your hand down and you can start to use your palm, do those circles again to finish out. Get a little movement here. Pressing into those spaces. You probably feel that there are far less tender spots here. Just finishing on each side. And here you can always take longer or less time. If you find a particularly tender spot here, again, just 30 to 60 seconds. With hands, probably 30 seconds works really well for a lot of spaces. And then let go of that ball. Just a little stretch for the fingers. Just really interlace those fingers, really lock them in, make big fists, and then release them. And release. Turn the palm over. Take your opposite hand and rest those fingers against it so you can press away. A little stretch for the upper inner arm. The wrist and the fingers. Switch to the other side. Shake your hands out. Often if your hands are really tired, if you just take about 30 seconds to shake your hands out, I know this seems kind of silly, but it really lightens up the energy in your hands and makes them feel really fresh and new, like you just got out of bed and haven't done anything at all. And then shake them out. So take as long as you want or as little as you want, 30 to 60 seconds for each space, circling both directions, clockwise and counterclockwise, scrubbing opposite of how things naturally flow. So your hands and your muscles on here will actually flow down. So you're going against the grain sometimes, and then going in the same direction as the arm is extending or the hands are extending or their fingers out to the ends and back and forth. So you're getting all those different directions, really getting deep into these spaces. You can always use your fingers to do some of this if you want to get a little bit deeper, or a golf ball, but I really like a tennis ball or a myofascial release ball because it's just kind of a softer area. It grips the skin and gets a little bit deeper in there with some comfort. So a great thing to have just at your desk, easy to use. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope your hands feel a lot better and you have a great week.